Good afternoon. The subcommittee will now come to order. Pursuant to notice, the Subcommittee on Energy and Environment meets to consider the following measures: H.R. 3246, the Advanced Vehicle Technology Act of 2009, H.R. 3165, the Wind Energy Research and Development Act of 2009, H.R. 3029, to establish a research, development, and technology demonstration program to improve the efficiency of gas turbines used in combined cycle power generation systems, and H.R. 3247, to establish a social and behavioral science research program at the Department of Energy and for other purposes. As I just mentioned, this afternoon our committee is considering those four bills. I'll go into a bit more detail now. H.R. 3246 is authored by Representative Peters and co-sponsored by Rep. Biggert of our subcommittee. This legislation authorizes research and development on different classes of vehicles with the goal of reducing or eliminating petroleum fuel use and their associated emissions. H.R. 3165, the Wind Energy Research and Development Act of 2009, is offered by our colleague Mr. Tonko. This legislation authorizes several areas of research identified in a recent report outlining the needs for expanding the use of wind-powered electricity generation. H.R. 3029 is also offered by the now prolific Mr. Tonko. This bill establishes an R&D program to improve the efficiency of gas turbines used in combined cycles power generation systems. Today, 15% of electric power is produced from natural gas. This percentage is predicted to double over the next decade. The investment costs for new power plants are very high, and once built, they operate for many decades. It is vital we build them to be as efficient as possible from the outset, and this legislation will help achieve that goal. Finally, we'll mark up H.R. 3247, a bill I introduced to authorize a social and behavioral research program at the Department of Energy. Technology development and investment are only part of the solution to our energy problem. The decisions each of us make every day have a significant impact on energy production and consumption. It is important that we understand why some technologies are more readily embraced than others, and it is important that we know how to communicate effectively about the nature of our energy challenge and know how to empower individual citizens to participate in overcoming those challenges. The four bills we will consider today address important energy technology needs and the need for more research on the human factors that determine their acceptance and success. I look forward to productive markup. Thank you all for your attendance and participation this afternoon. I now recognize Mr. Inglis to present opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'm looking forward to discussing and improving the four pieces of legislation before us today. The Advanced Vehicle Technology Act of 2009 will authorize a vehicle technologies program at DOE. The bill realigns the program to approach a wide variety of critical transportation technology research areas with the goal of reducing petroleum use and the related emissions. A balanced and robust research program is necessary to expand our mobility options, increase our national security, and establish the United States as a world leader in auto and truck design, manufacturing, and transportation fuel development. The second bill we'll discuss today is the Wind Energy Research and Development Act. As the Department of Energy and the American Wind Energy Association have made clear, expanding our wind power generating capacity will require significant improvement in turbine technologies, forecasting capabilities, energy storage, and the transmission grid. Strengthening the research effort in wind energy will help us move away from polluting fossil fuel energy while creating jobs in wind energy design, manufacturing, and operation. H.R. 3029 will implement a short-term research, development, and demonstration project at DOE to push gas turbine combined cycle generating systems to 65% efficiency. Natural gas is a clean-burning fuel produced right here in the United States and is the fastest growing source of new electricity capacity. Increasing turbine efficiency will reduce fuel usage and corresponding emissions, optimize our use of this limited resource, and lower electricity cost. Finally, H.R. 3247 establishes a social and behavioral sciences research program at the Department of Energy. This research is intended to help us better understand the way individual decisions impact energy markets and energy technology development. I'm aware of the National Science Foundation's work in this area. I understand the Chairman's desire to see this work become an emphasis of DOE. I look forward to hearing how that cross-pollination may work, and I will have some questions about how it would work. Thank you again for the opportunity to work with you on this legislation, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Inglis. Members may place statements in the record at this point. We'll now consider H.R. 3246, the Advanced Vehicle Technology Act of 2009. I will recognize myself for 5 minutes to describe the bill. I am pleased to bring up H.R. 3246, which was introduced by our colleague from Michigan, Mr. Gary Peters, and co-sponsored by the distinguished gentlelady from Illinois, Ms. Biggert. Congressman Peters does not sit on this committee, so we'll look forward to hearing from him on his bill in the full committee markup next week. The U.S. transportation sector accounts for over 1/4 of the primary energy use and greenhouse gas emissions domestically, and almost 1/4 of the total global oil demand. American consumers expect the freedom of mobility and availability of products and services that, frankly, are becoming harder to meet in light of the high economic and environmental costs of our addiction to oil. A more sustainable transportation future will require the development and market penetration of a wide variety of vehicle technologies. Congressman Peters' bill authorizes both current and new activities within the Department of Energy's Vehicle Technology Program. The bill highlights critical research needs in areas such as vehicle electrification, hydrogen technologies, manufacturing technologies, lightweight materials, combustion optimization, and vehicle sensing and communication. It also gives important policy guidelines in requiring the program to continue its focus on longer-term transformational technologies and to strengthen its outreach to a variety of companies and other government agencies. The authorized funding levels are increased over current levels to support the important activities authorized in the bill. Title II of the bill emphasizes the federal research needs in medium to heavy-duty commercial vehicles and seeks to make the DOE-led interagency program more robust through better leadership and coordination. Mr. Peters and Ms. Biggert have a good bill. I encourage its passage, and I look forward to working with my colleagues as we take it to full committee. I now recognize Mr. Inglis to present any remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This reauthorization legislation calls on DOE to develop a broad vehicle research portfolio and balance long-term breakthroughs with the immediate research needs in the transportation sector, with the goal of bringing new technologies and processes to the market that will help reduce our dependence on foreign oil. The bill has a broad vision focusing on activities from hydrogen fuel cells to lightweight materials and advanced vehicle designs. I'm happy to lend my support to this legislation, which will enrich our federal research efforts, strengthen our competitive role in the international market for cutting-edge vehicle technologies, and improve our national security. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Inglis. Does anyone else wish to be recognized on the legislation? I'm pleased to recognize the gentlelady, Ms. Biggert.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this markup today, and thank you for bringing up this bill. I join Representative Peters today in support of H.R. 3246, the Advanced Vehicle Technology Act of 2009. Bolstering research and ultimately deployment of advanced vehicle technologies is an important part of a national energy and environmental strategy. With increased R&D and demonstration, we can deploy technologies and practices that improve the fuel efficiency and emissions reductions of all vehicles and equipment produced and used in the United States. We can support and encourage domestic manufacturing of advanced vehicles, such as Caterpillar's D7E, the first electric drive bulldozer, and we can move more people and goods with less energy and emissions, and we can enhance consumer choices in vehicles and fuels, and most importantly, cut down technology development and integration cycles in the vehicle industry. The medium, heavy-duty, and non-road provisions in H.R. 3246 are particularly important. Significant efficiency gains can be made in non- and off-road equipment relative to the way they perform on the job site. However, a coordinated and comprehensive investment in R&D is necessary to meet this goal while optimizing performance, safety, and operational standards. I urge my colleagues to support H.R. 3246 and yield back.
I thank the gentlelady for her leadership and her strong involvement with this committee. She always offers a thoughtful legislation, and I appreciate her involvement. One slight correction, my children have a tiny electro-drive bulldozer, but it won't push very much, and so something with more capacity is certainly welcome.
If the gentleman will yield,
sure.
I might just say that I have driven a 10-ton front loader, and I've gone forward and I've gone backward, and the basket holds 1 million golf balls. I think that's going to be a little while before we get the electric involved in that size, 10-ton.
I thank the gentlelady. It is remarkable what is being done, and this bill will move that forward much faster, and I applaud her for her contribution, as with Mr. Peters. Are there any other members who wish to speak to the legislation? Did I leave something out? I then ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point. Without objection, so ordered. Any other members wishing to offer amendments? If no, then the vote will occur on the bill, H.R. 3246. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed will say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I recognize myself to offer a motion. I move that the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 3246 to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee. The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Members will have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental minority or additional views on the measure. We will now consider H.R. 3165, the Wind Energy Research and Development Act of 2009. I understand Mr. Tonko is involved in another mark of the legislation. I have described it earlier. We've had hearings on this topic, and I would urge its passage, and I'm certain Mr. Tonko will speak to this when it comes to the full committee. I would now recognize Mr. Inglis if he has additional remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the upstate of South Carolina, General Electric employs about 1,500 engineers and 1,500 production employees dedicated to designing and manufacturing advanced wind and gas turbines. These are great-paying jobs, stable jobs that benefit our local economy. An expansion of wind energy capacity will not only create more great jobs like these at General Electric in Greenville, but will make the U.S. a world leader in the wind energy sector. DOE and the American Wind Energy Association agree that there are no prohibitive obstacles to rapidly expanding our wind energy capacity to 20% by 2030, and that we have a lot to gain economically and environmentally from increasing our dependence on this energy source. This bill addresses specific research challenges to building a domestic fleet of efficient and reliable wind turbines and meeting the 20% by 2030 goal. So I'm happy to support the bill, Mr. Chairman, and I yield back.
Does anyone else wish to be recognized? I would ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that members proceed with the amendments in the order of the roster. Without objection, so ordered. The first amendment on the roster is an amendment offered by the ranking member. Mr. Inglis, are you ready to proceed with your amendment, Mr. Inglis?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 3165, Amendment Number 001, offered by Mr. Inglis of South Carolina.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. I recognize the gentleman for 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Mr. Chairman, my amendment is fairly simple and self-explanatory. It follows it allows the Secretary of Energy to include other research and development focus areas in the Wind Energy Research and Development Program listed on pages 2 and 3 of the bill. The American Wind Energy Association's action plan to achieve 20% wind energy by 2030 listed 59 action items, quote, deemed necessary to meet the 20% wind vision by 2030, close quote. My amendment allows for the Secretary to determine which additional areas, if any, to focus R&D in order to achieve the 20% by 2030 goal. And I would urge adoption of the amendment, Mr. Chairman.
This strikes me as a constructive and useful amendment. I applaud the gentleman for offering it. Would urge support. Is there further discussion on the amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. The second amendment on the roster is an amendment offered by the gentleman from New Mexico, Mr. Lujan. Are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 3165, Amendment Number 026, offered by Mr. Lujan of New Mexico.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. I recognize the gentleman from New Mexico for 5 minutes to explain his amendment.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. New Mexico is well positioned to be a leader in renewable energy development, and wind and solar have the potential to solve our energy problems. New Mexico has vast energy resources in wind and solar. Already, scientists and entrepreneurs are hard at work harnessing the power of the wind in eastern New Mexico, and the eastern side of my state has become an immense generating source of wind energy. In my district, the North American Wind Research and Training Center at Mesalands Community College has established curriculum and provided training opportunities to create a strong labor force to support a robust renewable energy economy. Still, we have a lot of work to do, and I commend Congressman Tonko for introducing this important legislation that invests in wind energy, research, development, and demonstration. H.R. 3165 establishes a program that focuses on the research and development of advanced computational modeling tools to improve the study of wind energy systems. My amendment today adds 2 new subparagraphs under the computational modeling research and development section. The first subparagraph focuses on using computational modeling tools to assist in locating ideal sites on which to build wind energy systems. Advanced computational resources can help developers make better informed decisions to maximize wind energy production and efficiency while minimizing variable generation. The intermittent nature of wind power needs to be addressed. My amendment addresses this by adding an additional subparagraph that focuses on using computational modeling tools to improve the integration of wind energy systems into the electric grid. Investing in technology that focuses on integration of renewable energy into the grid ensures power reliability and brings us closer to achieving a clean energy economy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back my time.
I thank the gentleman for his amendment. I also believe this is a constructive and well-crafted amendment. Would be happy to support it myself. Is there further discussion on the amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Any further amendments that other members wish to offer? Hearing none, the vote is on the bill. H.R. 3165 is amended. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I recognize myself to offer a motion. I move the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 3165 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that the staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee. The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? No. The ayes have it. The bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Members will have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental, minority, or additional views on the measure. We will now consider H.R. 3029 to establish a research, development, and technology demonstration program to improve the efficiency of gas turbines used in combined cycle power generation systems. Again, Mr. Tonko is at a markup, regrettably, but we have had a very successful hearing on these kinds of issues, and I applaud him for his leadership on this legislation. Clearly, if we can improve the efficiency of gas turbines, we can save a great deal of energy and reduce our ocean acidification and global warming gases. I would now recognize Mr. Inglis to present any remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill creates a competitive program with the aim of identifying and achieving the significant technological and materials breakthroughs that are necessary to boost gas turbine combined cycle efficiency. Higher gas turbine efficiency will help us get the most out of our domestic natural gas resources, generate jobs in engineering and turbine design, and leverage U.S. technological expertise to keep us competitive in the global market. I'm happy to be a co-sponsor of this important legislation, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman from South Carolina. Does anyone else wish to be recognized? If not, I ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point. Without objection, so ordered. Are any amendments that anyone wishes to offer to this legislation? If no, the vote is on the bill, H.R. 3029. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed will say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I recognize myself to offer a motion. I move the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 3029 to the full committee. Furthermore, I move the staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee. The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Members will have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental, minority, or additional views on the measure. Finally, we will consider H.R. 3247 to establish a social and behavioral science research program at the Department of Energy and for other purposes. I recognize myself to describe the bill. As indicated at the opening statement, the challenges we face with respect to energy and climate cannot be addressed by changing technologies and fuels alone, and technologies should be designed with an understanding of how people are likely to use them. We must make different choices as consumers, and we must change the way we do things every day. H.R. 3247 is a simple bill. It requires the Secretary to establish a social and behavioral research program at the Department of Energy and to appoint a director to oversee the program. The purpose of the program is to support research to improve our understanding of the social and behavioral factors that influence the adoption and use of energy technologies. The research funded under this program should be used to inform DOE's technology development and deployment programs and to ensure DOE's communication with the public about the benefits and risks of technologies to make sure that is clear and effective. The bill requires the director to develop a plan for the research program and for integrating the results of the research into DOE's other programs within 9 months, and to provide this plan to the Congress and the public. The director is required to develop the plan in consultation with an advisory committee of outside experts. The bill directs the Secretary to establish the advisory committee in accordance with the Federal Advisory Committee Act to ensure transparency and accountability. Grants awarded under this program are required to undergo peer review and be awarded through a merit-based competitive process. The bill authorizes $10 million per year for this program for fiscal years 2010 through 25. Let me put this in a little bit of context, if I may. We've had hearings in which researchers in the social behavior sciences have demonstrated savings in energy consumption of as much as 30%, simply by changing how we message things such as simple as recycling towels in hotels. A 30% energy saving translates into millions of dollars for our country, tons of carbon reduced, and yet it costs, in that case, virtually nothing. Relative to some of the extraordinary investments we make in the areas of nuclear fusion, wind, solar, et cetera, this is a minor investment which strong, well-documented research has shown can pay profound dividends. And in other areas of our research enterprise, I would point out that, for example, in aviation, some years ago, people discovered that we can make jets that can turn faster than human beings can tolerate, that the information flow that comes in, for example, in nuclear power plants, overwhelm the operators of those power plants. So in many other endeavors in our engineering and technological society, we've discovered that the human factors element can be just as important, perhaps more so, than the technological hardware. So we've got evidence that we can save energy, reduce emissions by changing behaviors. We've got evidence that how we adopt new technologies is critical to whether or not they are effective in what they do. We've had hearings before this committee on the role of buildings, for example, in our overall energy consumption, and how the operator of the building is at least as important, if not more so, than the construction of the building per se. So with all of that, a very modest investment of $10 million per year has a potential to leverage vastly our other investments, and hence the purpose of this bill. I would encourage all my colleagues on the subcommittee to join me in this effort and support H.R. 3247, and I'm pleased now to recognize Mr. Inglis to present any remarks on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had all kinds of agreement here now, and now comes this final bill, which is your bill, and I've got questions about it, which is a terrible way to end a
I'm happy to have questions on this topic, my friend.
But in any event, it's like this. I was on this healthcare tour, and was at a hospital to go nameless, and this cardiologist came in to pick up the fried chicken and the green beans cooked black and glistening and the macaroni and cheese out of the box. And he said, I'm taking it back to the cardiology unit because I don't want anybody to see me eating it. And so I was sitting next to an older doctor, and he said, we all know what we need to do. It's just we don't do it. And so this is a cardiologist taking the food that he shouldn't have been eating because he's already overweight back to the cardiology unit to eat it. And so I wonder, in the case of energy, whether we already know what we need to do. Turn off the lights when you leave the room, turn down the thermostat, get some more insulation in that roof, insulate your pipes. We all know what we need to do, but we don't do it. I'd say the same reason, sort of like this situation with the cardiologist. There's no real financial incentive. I think that Tom Friedman is largely right. We found out what causes Americans to change their driving behavior. It's gas at $4 a gallon. It's the point at which we change. So When we had this discussion at the hearing with one of our witnesses, it was very helpful. I was making that economic argument. She said, no, it's more deep than that. It's human behavior. I agree it's about human behavior, but it's got to be accompanied by this price signal. And I'm excited about some ways we can do that, and cooperating together, we really can get a price attached to carbon, and we might get some action here. So that's sort of a general misgiving. Then I've got two specific questions, Mr. Chairman, about this bill. And the bill did get to us very late, so some members have probably not had a chance to look at it, and I hope we can have more time to discuss this as we head toward the full committee. But two key questions. One is, does the cap and trade bill that was narrowly passed by the House already provide funds for research into American energy consumption behavior at the Department of Energy? And if so, first question is this additional legislative language necessary? And the second is, who's the best to do this? And 2 Congresses ago, I had the opportunity to be the chair of the research subcommittee and learned some of this committee, and learned of the science committee, and learned about the amazing work of the National Science Foundation. It seems to me that they're probably the better home for this behavioral research. They have a 2010 budget request includes $275 million for social, behavioral, and economic sciences research. At least $18.5 million of that pot is dedicated to the climate change science program. It seems to me a good question at this point to ask whether that's the place, the home for this kind of research. I do agree, though, with the chairman that it is important to get others besides NSF involved, and that's maybe the answer, is to get DOE partnering with NSF. But I wonder whether this $10 million a year is actually going to create that opportunity, or is it perhaps too little and too small of an effort in order to achieve the intended result? Because $10 million gets gone pretty fast if you're trying to change behavior. Probably change of behavior comes through significant ad campaigns, I would think, to cause people to change behavior, or the fabulous idea that the chairman mentioned to me yesterday about competitions within electric utility customers, some creative ideas like that. But the question is, how do you disseminate that, and is $10 million a year calculated to get to that result, or is it just not quite enough to actually make a difference, but end up doing, therefore, not a great deal of effective work? So some questions, and hope we can work on it as we head toward full committee. Yield back, Mr. Chairman.
I thank the gentleman. I welcome the questions, and as always, the gentleman is thoughtful and studious and well-intentioned in his remarks, so I don't find any problem. Let me address, if I may, a few of the questions you raised. First of all, this question, it plagues the social sciences a little bit, and the question is, do we in fact know what we need to do? It turns out in the field of behavioral economics and in social psychology that oftentimes what we think we ought to do has paradoxical outcomes. And let me give just a couple of anecdotal and actually empirically demonstrated results. Bob Cialdini from Arizona has done a fascinating study wherein if you tell people at Dinosaur National Monument or Petrified Forest National Monument, there is a sign that says, every year so many rocks disappear from here, please don't take them or we'll lose this valuable resource. One might think that you're telling people the right thing to do. Don't take the rocks. Turns out that sign increases the amount of theft. Why? Because people apparently conclude, hey, everybody else is stealing rocks, I might as well too. And they then did a study wherein they tried 2 signs, one that says don't take the rocks because everybody else is and they might all be gone soon. The other study which said, hey, you know what, most people aren't taking rocks. Why don't you be like most good people and not take rocks either? The latter sign decreased consumption of rocks. The former sign increased it. In behavioral economics, there's some fascinating work wherein once people have paid for something, they seem to feel entitled to use that something and thereby actually putting a fee on certain things, depending on how it's implemented, can increase the usage and hence pollution, et cetera, rather than decrease it. Analogy might be if you were to say to people in a park, we're adding a $1 fee onto your entrance fee for litter collection. Now people just say, well, I'm paying for this, I'm just going to throw the trash down. There are examples like that abundant in behavioral research where we think we know what we're doing and we may not. There's some fascinating work on human behavior change where if you tell people who haven't really thought about changing that they need to change, you may actually get backlash instead of movement for change. And so sequencing your intervention can lead to better, more effective outcomes. So this is the kind of research that we're talking about doing. The key point, your question about advertising, if you haven't done this, your advertising may be iatrogenic. Two well-documented examples in behavior science. One is the Scared Straight program. This is a program which is tangential to our topic today, but it's instructive nevertheless. Scared Straight was a program where they took these kids and they put them in a penitentiary and they had a bunch of convicts yell at them and say, the various things convicts would say to young kids. And the idea, you would scare these kids straight. This was adopted around the country. People said, that's what we need in our state as well, until some social scientists actually looked at it. The recidivism rate among those kids was higher than kids who hadn't been through the program. So the point I'm making here, in a bunch of areas we're seeing where thinking we know what we ought to do. And interesting enough, as recently as a couple years ago, a legislator in my state raised the issue, we ought to do a Scared Straight program, oblivious to the data that suggests you would actually increase your recidivism rate if you invested dollars in that way. So that's, do we know what we need to do? Yes, we need to turn out the lights, but how we get people to turn out the lights is the key question, and we're not as effective as we should be. Your other question had to do with whether or not there's language included in the ACES bill. Yes, my understanding is there is. I believe Mr. Holt introduced some legislation to include some funding in that bill. To some extent, to be honest, it was a bit of an intrusion on the jurisdiction of our committee, and I think we need to assert that jurisdiction. This committee, as you know, has jurisdiction over research activities at DOE, and we need to assert that. And I think we need to codify and formally authorize and direct DOE in the manner that we see appropriate to conduct this research. And then finally, the NSF question I find very fascinating and a perfectly legitimate one. We have in this committee, on a host of issues, we focus on research funding in other aspects of energy that you could also find areas in which NSF is looking at. If you look at basic energy physics, for example, we have programs within DOE. NSF may have programs as well, and there's overlap. The key in this case for me is the applied nature, whereas NSF funding is meant to be basic research, and certainly we would hope basic research is conducted here. What I hope to achieve with this is an integral coordination between the behavioral research and the energy application. So we're not just looking at, for example, take hydrogen. Let's say we tell people hydrogen cars are the way to go. How do you sell the public on a hydrogen car? How do we apply the technology in a way that adapts behaviorally to where people will make the changes necessary? What are their concerns? Is it refueling? Are they afraid they'll explode? Et cetera, et cetera. So it's that integration coordinated with the behavior, with the technological research that DOE is conducting. There's just no substitute for having people in the same function, the same organization, working together and making that part of their mindset. So that's why we would do it there, versus then NSF support where they put out a proposal for grants, peer review the grants, send it out, but it may not be integral to the DOE type research. So long answer, but that's why we're doing it this way. Any other members wishing? Ms. Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a point of just clarification, a question. My experience with a lot of research, particularly as it comes out of the Congress, is that we don't do research that really looks wholly and fully at lots of different kinds of communities and their behavior. And I really do am very supportive of getting to the sort of social and behavioral aspects of changing behavior as related to our consumption. And I perhaps can work with you offline about this, but I am concerned that by not really specifically directing the Secretary to explore all kinds of communities and the ways in which they consume, that we actually may ignore an available avenue of changing behavior and consumption among some communities that have the most need of a change in behavior and consumption. And so I wonder if there might be a point at which, before we go to full committee, that we could actually work on clarifying that language, so we actually encourage the Secretary to say, take into consideration looking at racially diverse communities, culturally diverse communities and their consumption behaviors, and how we can explore new technologies and also look at those consumer communities.
I think it is an outstanding suggestion, point well taken, and I would be happy to work with the gentlelady on this. There are fascinating studies on how different messaging can have different impacts, and even things such as well-intended programs like LIHEAP, for example. In some areas, we subsidize people's energy bill, and we find that actually increases energy consumption because people can more afford to use more energy. So I think that's a brilliant suggestion. I'd be happy to work with the gentlelady about adding some language between now and the full markup or full committee markup, and I'm grateful that you offered it. We'll work together on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there other members who wish to be recognized? At that point, I would ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that members proceed with the amendments in order of the roster. Without objection, so ordered. The first amendment on the roster is a manager's amendment. The clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment to H.R. 3247, amendment number 026, offered by Mr. Barrett of Washington.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with reading. Without objection, so ordered. I recognize myself for 5 minutes to explain the amendment. The manager's amendment makes a series of small changes throughout the bill. In Section 1, the amendment strikes the word new as a modifier for energy technologies because there are existing energy technologies that have not been adopted widely that could increase energy efficiency, in addition to new technologies that may be available in the future. The amendment also adds policies and programs to the list of items DOE will address through this research program. Under the duties of the Director, energy production is included as an area for providing information to consumers. Solar and wind technologies, for example, are still relatively new to consumers. Additional information about these technologies for homeowners and owners of commercial properties can expand people's awareness of improvements that have occurred in recent years. The amendment inserts a new section to define Secretary as the Secretary of Energy and Director as the Director created in this legislation. Finally, the amendment adds a new item in Section 1C4 to be addressed in the research plan. The plan will now also include research to understand the behavioral factors that affect decisions to adopt energy production technologies or fuels. I would urge support for the amendment. And is there further discussion on this amendment? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the amendment is agreed to. Any further amendments wish to be offered? The vote, if not, then the vote will occur on the bill, H.R. 3247, as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, the ayes have it. I recognize myself to offer a motion. I move the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 3247 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill in accordance with recommendations of the subcommittee. The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Members will have 2 subsequent calendar days in which to submit supplemental, minority, or additional views on the measure. I would like to invite my colleagues who have further interest in this to work between now and the full committee markup. I want to thank members for their attendance, staff for all their good work. This concludes our subcommittee markup.